Namaskar. I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive online training on data privacy and protection. This training program is brought to you by CIET NCERT in collaboration with ISEA CDAC under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. You're watching us live on eVidya channels 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. Today we are in day 2 of our training session with the topic that we are taking up is consumer rights and data protection. Well, we all know that data is asset and these days there are a lot of mishaps happening because of misuse of data that we somehow provide. Sometimes we are compelled to provide the same, sometimes we provide the same unintentionally. So knowingly or unknowingly, we are actually making a mistake. But are we required to do that? Or is there any other way for us to stop avoiding or stop providing the data? Let's talk about it more. Let's know about our consumer rights. If something goes wrong, whom should we approach? How should we approach? And what is the best way to take the remedial measure? So we will talk about it in detail in today's session. I'm sure you must be having a lot of questions as well. So why don't you get in touch with us? Our phone number is 8800440559. We also have a dedicated email ID for you. That is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in, and on our YouTube handle NCERT Official as well. You can send us your questions, suggestions and your feedback. To know more about consumer rights and data protection, we are joined by our experts. So please welcome Dr. Kanti Singh Sangher. Ma'am is Scientist E from CDAC Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Ma'am, namaskar and very warm welcome to the session.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure is ours, ma'am. Yes.
Is a must for all of us to know, to understand the consumer rights for everything that we are doing in this digital era, and how to protect the data. That is very, very important.
Absolutely. Consumer forum is extremely important, whether we buy anything offline, online, whether we do transactions online. If something wrong is happened to us, then we have the right to go and approach the authorities and to take the remedial action. So ma'am, before you actually get into the details of the topic and you present us the same, I request you to kindly share with us a brief overview of the session, what exactly we are going to cover here.
Okay, ma'am. So in consumer rights and data protection, I'll start with how these two topics are related with each other. When I say consumer rights, what exactly are the different rights we as a consumer we can have, and what are the data protection measures available for us so that all of us, all consumers community can protect their data. What are the different rules, regulations and the measures available in the government so that they can protect our data, so that they can give the rights to the consumer, and how these two terms are actually related and relevant for each of us. That I will cover, and I will cover all the rights of the consumers, the DPDP Act, which is a curated guidelines which is having the rules where we can actually understand why the data protection is important for us and what are the different ways to protect our data in terms of the guidelines, in terms of the rule given by the government.
Absolutely, ma'am. As informed and responsible citizens, we must know about the guidelines that we're supposed to adhere to, and apart from that, we must also know about our rights so that we can take the best possible action in time. Now, I request you to kindly go ahead with your presentation uninterrupted. Whatever questions we will be receiving from our audiences, we'll take them up in the end. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, as I said, I'll start with the consumer rights and the data protection, how they are correlated with each other, because consumer rights mean all the rights which are the fundamental rights of the citizens. Okay, not as an individual within a one country, but all the rights which are actually that should be accessible globally. Okay. And every day, as per the statistics available, more than 5.3 billions are using the internet. It means everyone is actually using some way around. They are using the internet, whether it is through mobile device or through laptop or through any other medium. So, and only 59% of countries, they have actually having the laws which covers the online consumer protection. And in India we are lucky and we are aware. Because of that, we are having the Consumer Protection Act 2019, which actually provides expanded protections for the e-commerce transactions, for all the regulatory bodies, for every private, public sector, government organization. They are actually giving lot of protection to the consumer society. And why we need this, why we need the consumer rights, why we need the data protection? Because there are a lot of cyber crimes which are happening due to the open data. Because data is available, if we are not able to protect the data, then in that case we can suffer from the cyber crimes. Because lot of threats, for example phishing, website spoofing, ransomware, malware, and IoT hacking. These are the targeted attacks which actually try to exploit the data. So if we want to protect our data, in that case, there should be some rules, regulation, and we also need to understand that we have right to protect our data. That is very, very important. So when I say need of consumer rights and data protection, because we are having the data which is having lot of information, whether we are working in the private, public sector, or government organization, in defense, in healthcare, in any specific industry. We are having data, our personal data, professional data, and that stores lot of information, and that needs to be protected. If we are giving permission also, then that permission should be based on our consent. If we are ready to share, then only the data should be shared. Because lot of data is personal to us, and most of the time people are hesitant, they are not okay to share the data with others. So safety of the data is also a big concern for everyone. So we need to create a harmonized approach between the rights of the consumers, which is related to the privacy, data privacy, and the interest also. Because we want to use the digital devices, we want to use the digital services, but in a protected way. Now, the potentially transformative changes are actually given by the ministry which are handling the different kinds of data protection and consumer rights. So they have given robust enforcement mechanism, we will see in the upcoming slides. And one of the major uh, input given by the government, that is the GDPR's consumer centric provisions, which offers a lot of useful models which balances innovation in terms of the digital services which we are using day by day in our daily life, and protection of that data. So the implementation challenges are also there when we say that we want to use the devices, we want to share the data, but we want privacy also. So in that case, implementation is also a challenge, because it includes lot of technological complexity, lot of uh, problems related to the cross-border data flows, and also enforcement capacity constraint are there. So government needs, and government also understands that data protection rights to the consumers are very, very necessary, but they are also facing the challenges in terms of the multi-stack governance approaches. They know, government bodies, they know that every person, every consumer, they have right to know, they have right to data portability, they have right to non-discrimination, they have right to opt out, and they have right to delete. So all these rights, which are fundamental rights, they should be given to the end user. But how carefully, that is actually the role of government. So the growth of digital economy and increased consumer vulnerability is actually the challenge in terms of the consumer rights. How? So let's try to understand that India's digital economy is projected to reach $1 trillion by 2025 in this particular year. So the growth creates a lot of opportunities, but same time it heightens consumer vulnerabilities too. Because as a consumer, all of us, 100% consumers are actually not that much aware. And because of that, most digital services which are operating in data for service model, they sometimes try to exploit the data of the consumers. And most of the time, what happens? Consumers surrender their personal information because they want the free services. These are actually the vulnerabilities. So these kind of the transaction actually create fundamental information asymmetries. You are getting the services, free services, that is your understanding, but the services are actually not free. In getting the services, you are actually compromising your personal data. So the compute because consumers are not having that much awareness, they are having lack of awareness. Because of that, in India, especially in India, there is a imbalance, and this imbalance is actually the problem in the digital marketplace of India. Because lot of people, they are not, right now also they are not that much vigilant that privacy is also an important thing. Now I would like to discuss few more details about this, because monetization of consumer data is also one of the critical issue. Because lot of business organizations, they are monetizing their users personal data. They are selling the data, they are exchanging the data for their own usage, and personal data which can serve them as a new currency in the ecosystem. So we need to understand, we need to make understand people that our personal data is very, very important for us. This is not something for the business, and we need to protect it. And we need to understand that whatever services we are using, we need transparency, we need consent, and based on our consent, only the data needs to be shared with others. So, how actually all this privacy related evolution happened in India? How people understood that yes, there are fundamental rights for the consumers also. So there was a landmark judgment in Justice K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. That was actually the, you can say, the landmark judgment which took in help one initiative for evolution of privacy in India. So a 9-judge bench unanimously, they held that privacy is a fundamental right, and they establish that the constitutional core of human dignity, we need to protect the privacy. So they gave threefold test for privacy restrictions, and they also said that all the consumers related services, they need to satisfy the requirements of legality, necessity, and proportionality. And also they made the statement that constitutional recognition significantly impacts data protection as well as consumer rights. So because of this landmark judgment, in India, privacy was actually taken a shape of India's constitutional framework. So let's now try to understand, as a consumer in India, if we are availing any type of services, what are set of legal protections that ensures us that all our data will be treated in a fairly manner. So I'll start with the first one, that is the right to safety. And what we mean by the right to safety, it means that the protection from products and services that are hazardous to life and property. If any company, if any organization, if they are creating any type of product, then we can have the right to safety. And it says that consumers should insist on quality and certified products. Like they should use products with ISI or AG marks. Now, the second and very, very important one is right to be informed. And this is very important because the right to receive clear and accurate information on the quality, on the quantity, potency, purity, standard, and price of goods and services. These are actually the very, very basic concerns for any consumer, right? So this right to be informed helps consumers to make informed choices and protects them from any type of misleading advertising. Now the next right is right to choose. We as a consumer, we have right to choose. The ability to select from a wide range of goods and services at competitive prices. In cases of monopoly, it means the right to be assured of satisfactory quality and service at a fair price. We can choose. We can have the option. We can have option to accept or deny. Nobody can enforce anything to the consumer. Now, the next thing is right to be heard. It means our voice is also very important. Consumer's voice is very important. The right to have grievances heard and to receive due attention from businesses and consumer forums is actually one of the very fundamental right provided by the Indian government. So if anybody is having any type of grievances, if they are facing any type of problem related to the services, they can put it in the consumer forum, or there are different type of platforms for feedback and all where they can actually voice their concerns. Now the next thing is right to seek readdressal. Redressal means what? The consumer have the right to fair settlement. Why we need the fair settlement? Because there are a lot of grievances which are genuine in nature, like receiving compensation for faulty goods or services. So this is also one of the fundamental right of the consumer. The next one is right to consumer education. The right to be educated, the right to be get awareness about a particular thing or domain, so that one's rights as a consumer to avoid exploitation due to ignorance. Lot of capacity building programs also you can think in that manner, because all of us, we are using the digital devices, and because of that we need to have the digital literacy as well. We need to understand that yes, we are using the devices, but we do not want to become a victim of these devices. We are using because we are getting some type of services from this. Now, I would like to talk about the IT rules. What are the different IT rules that supports consumer rights or the data that consumer is having and that needs to be protected? So, IT rules 2011, this was the one of the major rule that was dedicated for the different areas of the IT. And the key points that I would like to discuss here is it applies to body corporates, and what it includes in body corporate: different companies, firms, sole proprietorships, associations, handling personal information or sensitive personal data or information, that is also called as SPDI. And the rule of IT rule of 2011, it also applies when SPDI is collected. Whenever there is a sensitive personal data or information is collected from the user, it will be always applicable while collection, while processing, storing, transferring from one to another platform or application, and also if somebody wants to disclose it. So this is actually very, very important rule or a key point that is given by the IT rules 2011. And More further, if you would like to elaborate what exactly we mean by the sensitive personal data or information, it means we need to understand our passwords. And along with that, financial information, all the information related to the finance, that is bank account, net banking or UPI, anything that we are using for the financial transaction, card details, then health conditions and medical records. These are also considered as the SPDI. Then biometric information, very, very important one. Sexual orientation. Nobody can ask you nobody can enforce you to get information about your sexual data or your biometric information, and nobody can actually without your consent they can get this kind of data. Now physical, physiological and mental health condition, that is also very, very important for an individual. We are consumers, we are using the different type of services, application in mobiles, in websites, but all the data that we are sharing, whether it is related to our physical health, our mental health, nobody is having the right to share it with anyone. Now, any detail that is related to all these categories and all the information received for providing the services, all this comes under the SPDI. So, one more thing that is very, very important to understand from the consumer rights perspective, that is CCPA. This CCPA, or we can say Central Consumer Protection Authority, is actually, it was stabilized under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. And it came in effect from 24 July 2020. And what is their functionality? What exactly they are doing? They are regulating all the matters related to violation of rights of consumers. If there is any unfair trade practices or false or misleading advertisement, for example, right? There are so many things. So these are the primary concerns. So they are dealing with all these regulatory matters. And what are the different powers they are having? So if we can summarize the power of the CCPA, I would like to mention, like, they can protect, they can promote, they can enforce the rights of consumers as a class and prevent violation of consumer rights under this act. When I say this act, means the Act of Consumer Protection Act 2019. Again, this act prevent unfair trade practices and ensure that no person engages in unfair trade practices. In not only the person here, even not any organization who is handling the data of the consumer. Now again, ensure that no false or misleading advertisement is made of any service which contravenes the provisions of this act or the rules of this act. Right? And then this CCPA, it ensures that no person takes part in the publication of any advertisement, right, which is false or misleading. There is prejudicial to the interest of consumer as a class and public at large. Also, this is a service provided by the CCPA so that it can serve largely all the consumers, whoever is using the digital data or digital applications. So if we just summarize the key features of Consumer Protection Act 2019. So the first thing was CCPA came into the picture, and CCPA was stabilized, and it introduced different types of matters related to the violation of consumer rights, unfair practices, advertisements, and the different rights of consumer that we have discussed related to the safety, related to their voice needs to be heard. Then in 2019 Consumer Protection Act, there is a provision of e-filing of complaints. If you are facing any complaint, there is a portal, there is a dedicated platform where you can file your complaint. And you can write each and every information along with the video conferencing. You can give them all other details as well if the text is not enough in that case. In this rule, in this act, product liability was also given as a feature where they introduced the concept of product liability, holding manufacturers. Now, not only the people or businessman, but the whole manufacturer agencies, the sellers, service providers, they are now accountable for any harm that is caused by their defective products or services. So this ensures that consumers can seek compensation if any type of hazardous if happens, right? So if they are facing any damage due to the faulty goods or the services, they can actually raise a concern, and all the manufacturers, sellers, service providers, they will be accountable. One more thing that is very, very important in nowadays in this digital era where children's, senior citizens, professionals, and non-working men, women, everyone is using the digital devices. The very, very important concern is misleading advertisements. So the CCPA, they have imposed penalties on the celebrities, endorsers, and advertisers if they found them promoting misleading advertisements. So there is also a provision for banning such advertisement. They can ban anytime, and they can take corrective measures also if required. And then unfair trade practices. This is also one of the very, very important key feature of 2019 Consumer Protection Act, where the act defines and prohibits unfair trade practices, which includes unfair contracts, misleading advertisements, denial of services, and it also offers different type of provisions where penalties are also there. For each and every case, different set of penalties they have set based on the damage or based on the grievances, right? So let's see few of them we can discuss here also, that the different type of monetary limits are set for complaints. For example, here we can see district commission. For cases up to 1 crore, they can set the penalties. For state commission, cases between 1 crore to 10 crores. National commission for cases about 10 crores. So for each and every, there is a specific bench, there is a specific set of commission, and they can they can make the judgment, and based on that, they will actually give the penalties also. Sometimes some other type of you can say other type of penalties also, not only in terms of the monetary, right? So one more feature that is very, very important from the Consumer Act 2019, that is alternate dispute resolution. What happens in this particular feature, that this act encourages mediation as an alternative whenever there is a dispute. Okay, why mediation is required? Because sometimes mediation can also solve the challenge. So a mediation cell will be attached if there is any case related to the consumers. So they can refer to the mediation cell, and they will try to provide the faster and amicable settlements of disputes. Now we have discussed a lot of about the consumer rights. What are the rights? CCPA also, and the act which is dedicated for the consumer protection. Now we need to understand, because consumer is having data, and that data is actually that we want to protect. So we need to understand that digital data protection is very, very important for all of us, because we as an individual, as an organization, we are dealing with lot of data every day. We are actually the data principal as per the new DPDP rules, Digital Personal Data Protection Act. We are nowadays using the term data principals. Earlier it was called as the data subjects, but as all the individuals, now they are called as the data principal. So to whom the personal data relates, I am the data principal. If my personal data is used somewhere, I am the data principal, right? So the personal data relates, and where such individual is a child includes the parent or lawful guardian of such a child. So you can say that it is not only for a grown individual or 18 plus adult, it is for all, right? And why we need to protect our data? Because we need to protect so that nobody can misuse our data. Nobody can misuse, nobody can sell our data, nobody can actually damage our data. That is why we need to protect our data, and there are different type of measures that we can adopt for the data protection. As you can see in the slide also, encryption is one way where we can encrypt the data, so that anybody, if they are having the data, in that case also, if the data is in encrypted form, they won't be able to get any relevant information, right? Then access control, we can put the access control. Whoever is having the access, they will be having the access rights, what they can access and what they will not be able to access. So we can set, based on the roles, based on the responsibility, we can set the access roles also. And we can protect the data by the backup and disaster recovery. This is very, very important thing, that regular data backup is, it should be used as a habit, as a practice by all of us. We need to monitor, we need to audit each and every hardware, software, and every part of the infrastructure that we are using in our organization, even the manpower also, resources also, whether they are aware about these protections schemes related to the hardware, software, application or not. Then we need to perform the data concealing, we need to perform the different ways so that we can protect our data. What are the different ways so that we can not we should not give open access to our data. It should be there, but nobody should be able to get the data in the open platform. So that is also very, very important thing. Then employee training and awareness, that is very important thing. Time to time basis, we need to understand there are a lot of type of cyber threats evolving. So each individual, whether they are working as IT professional or they are working in finance or any other division within the organization, they need to learn the different cyber threats and how they can actually protect their machines from them. And one more thing, incident response planning. If by doing all these things, if we are able to classify the data also, personal data, sensitive data, if we are able to encrypt that data also, if we have applied access control mechanism, we are taking regular backups, we are monitoring everything, we are performing the data concealing also, awareness within the employees also, our habitual, or we are following in a regular basis, then also if something happens, okay, that attack or that negative thing will be considered at the incidence. And we should prepare ourselves, our organization, for the incident response planning. If something happen, if something wrong happens, how we will start, how we will start to recover our system, okay, so that we can resume our services back as faster as possible, right? Now we need to understand from the different perspective that what are the actually the concerns for us, what are the vulnerabilities that are actually causing the exploitation of the data. So we need to learn the different stakeholders, their roles within this ecosystem. So the challenging digital landscape, because different applications are there, different types of users are there, and different types of data is there, right? So growing power and information asymmetries, it means lot of consumer vulnerabilities is coming on the way, and day by day it is growing only, right? So it is essential for public and private entities as well, that any process we need to exercise consumer rights. We need to understand that if something happens, how we can perform the different measures so that we can just remove the vulnerability part from our organization. Then from policymakers perspective an international organization perspective, we need to understand that there should be some type of arrangements to harmonize enforcement approaches also. How it will help us? Because policymakers, if they are able to ensure the data protection authorities and other relevant authorities, they can communicate with each other to address the complaints also. And it is very, very important that such agreements, they help us to create a regulatory management in India, abroad, anywhere. If we are working in any organization to solve a lot of problems, we need this type of settlement where we can talk with each other, where we can actually ask for some data. So this type of coordination is actually required from the policymakers perspective, that they should have defined collaboration mechanism. If something happens, how we will start communicating with other stakeholders, right? And again, policymakers, they need to strengthen the options for collective redress. They cannot blame one part or one component within the organization. They need to address all the data protection issues as a collective actions. And based on the rights of many individuals, they need to take the legal actions. How actually the policies, security, and the privacy in data protection help us. So this is because we have discussed about the rights of the consumers, data protection, why it is very, very important. Now we need to understand that these things like consumer rights and data protection, these are very, very much closely related to the security also. So if we want to work on the data protection, in that case, we have to work on the security as well as privacy. How we can perform the security part? So we have already known, we have discussed that encryption is one of the way, network security, access control, and then breach response, monitoring, auditing. These are the best practices that we need to follow and adopt on a daily basis. Then privacy. Privacy means what? We need to understand that each organization should have their own policies. If something wrong happens, what they will do, how they will do, who will be responsible, what will be their role in that circumstance. That is very, very important. So how those policies got enforced within organization, what data is important, why this particular data is important, we need to understand within the organization if we want to protect our data, right? So data security is very, very important for all the organization if they want to protect the data. So data security is nothing but the different mechanisms that we can follow, or you can say the collective mechanisms that we can follow, starting from the encryptions, where we can actually start from the individual level, right? We can just encrypt from one machine to another machine. All the data we can create backups in encrypted format, and so that we can, if anybody is having the data also, they won't be able to get anything out of it. Then we need to learn about the masking. How masking will help us? It will hide a specific section away from unauthorized persons. Then eraser. If we want to, let's say there is a such condition where we want to remove all the information for the security purpose, then eraser is also very, very important thing. And then backups. This is something which is actually we need to understand. Creating backups will help us to recover from the system if something wrong happens. So always work, if you want to secure the data, if you want to work on the data security part, always use encryption, masking, eraser related policies, and backups. What we mean by the data privacy? Okay, in data protection, security as well as privacy, these two things are very, very important, right? So data privacy means a legal control. Whenever we say privacy, something is private to me. If anybody tries to get that private data, it means there is some legal thing attached to it. So data privacy is a legal control concerning data access or use. Nowadays, that is why all of you can see that it, in each and every website, you will get whether you want to give the consent to provide all the cookies or not. Okay, so they will ask you. If you will deny, they will not track any data. Or if you are using their website, if you are visiting number of web pages, they can't, without your permission, they cannot save your data. So the consent is very, very important nowadays because of data privacy. And data privacy incorporates all the steps where you can handle, where you can process, store, and use personal information. Personal information which is very, very personal to you, like your PAN card, driving license, your voter ID card, your Aadhaar card, even your password also, right? So data privacy takes into consideration consumer rights. So you can say consumer rights and data protection. Here, data privacy, data security, all are actually the components which are connecting the dots between the consumer rights and data protection. Okay, so data privacy looks at policies or contracts around the collecting of such information. So it covers lot of applicable regulatory laws. So the data protection's core principle, if we want to just summarize, we can say the data protection core principle should be open. Why? Because organization must be open about personal data practices. They should not hide anything, right? And the collection limitation, there should be limitation of the collection of personal data, and that should be also lawful and fair. And data protection core principle also states that purpose of collection and disclosure must be specified. Again, use of data must be limited to specific purposes. Data protection principle, core principle also states that the data controllers must comply with the data protection principles. People must be able to access and correct their personal data if required, right? And then data quality is also very important because personal data must be relevant, accurate, and up to date. Because holding older data or the data that is not in the correct format, updated format, in that case also it can create a lot of problem. And then security. Why security? Because personal data, something which is personal to anyone, okay, must be subject to appropriate safeguards. You need to protect the personal data. You cannot make it open for anyone or anytime, right? Now, intersection between data protection and consumer interests. We have discussed a lot of thing about the quality, safety of the and the rights of the users, which we can call as a consumer also. Okay, and we also understand that consumers are vulnerable. They want to use the services, but they are not vigilant that on basis of what they are actually using these services. So this is very, very important thing. And that is why while using e-commerce transactions or while using any type of applications, we should be very, very aware about the Central Consumer Protection Authority's regulations. Or every within few months, you can visit their website, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. They are releasing new guidelines. If there is any type of any problems, if they are facing, they are releasing time to time basis different guidelines. So try to search for their new guidelines. It will help you. It will help you to find your new consumer rights or updated consumer rights. Okay, so data protection, consumer rights in this digital era, they are related to the cyber security also. How they are related? Because the data is part of the network, and the network security must be done so that we can use the appropriate data, the data which is not in the compromise format. So we need to guard our network. It is organizations' responsibility to guard their network data. They need to perform the information security, because this will give or ensure the privacy of the data while storage or in transit, right? And then application security is also very important concern, because if the applications running within the organization, if they are not secure, then they can actually create they can create some threats to the organization, because they will be hacked by the hackers. So it is very important to implement the application level security that will keep devices or software free from threats. Operational security is also very important to protect the data, to protect the consumer rights, because operational security determines who has access to data in an organization. Access control is actually given by the operational security. So it looks at the handling and decision making around networks and the procedures. And most of the important thing is in user security, because all of us, whoever is using end devices, laptop, desktop, or anything within organization, in security, in user security is important, because it aims at educating people on the proper uses of endpoint devices. So the common examples of personal data misuse, how we need to understand why, if we know about our rights as a consumer, if we know the different measures of the data protection, what is the need of data protection, we also need to understand that if we are not doing all these measures, how actually the personal data can be misused. So what may happen, it is possible, if you are not able to protect our data, if you are not vigilant about the consumer rights, then breach of personal data may happen.
Okay.
Collection error may happen. And when I say collection error, means personal data may be incorrectly or unnecessarily collected without a legitimate legal basis. And one more thing, that is unauthorized use. When
Right.
personal data is processed, okay, without your consent, but it is actually used by the data controller, then maybe some unauthorized usage can also happen. So it is very important for all of us to understand the consumer protection laws, regulations, our rights, so that we can protect our data and we can use the applications as well. Right. So not only CCPA, not only ITX 2011, but there are other consumer protection laws and regulation exist.
Okay.
Some of them are like BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards 2016 Act is there, which ensures in standardization and quality certification of any goods. And then Legal Metrology Act 2009, which regulates ways, measures, and labels to prevent deceptive, or you can say the dark practices.
Right.
Then there is a Food Safety and Standards Act 2006 that regulates the food quality standards, ensuring consumer safety in the food products. So not only one or two major rules, but there are different set of rules are available in India that we can use for the different purposes. But yes, government is doing lot of things. Lawmakers, they are policymakers, they are doing lot of things. But we as a consumers, we are also having some responsibilities. We need to being aware of the quality, quantity of the products and services which we are utilizing. We need to read labels and instructions carefully, starting from the mobile application to the food related items. So whatever you are buying, okay, read the labels, read the instructions, or if you are not buying, if you are using free, in that case also read the instructions carefully. That will help you. So demanding bills and warranties for purchase, that is also one of the responsibility we have. Then reporting genuine grievances and avoiding false complaints, that is also our responsibility. So all of us, we know that now DPDP Act is actually in action in India. So there are a lot of things or a lot of support enabled by the DPDP Act also for the consumer rights. For example, there is a right to give or refuse consent is there in the DPDP, where any organization, if they want get any data from you, it is your right to give or refuse the consent.
Okay.
Right to know how and why data is used. Okay, you can ask why someone is collecting your data, how they will process your data, everything you can ask them. Right to access personal data. Individual can request, they can make a request for a copy or summary their data held by the fiduciary.
Okay.
Okay, so that if there is any tampering in your data, if something is wrong, in that case you can just point out that part. Now, the right to correction or update inaccurate or outdated information, if anything, whether it is your personal or professional data, but that is, if that is not correct, you have the right through the DPDP that you can ask them, you can ask them to correct or update inaccurate or outdated data. Again, there is a right to ensure. You can request deletion of data under certain condition. For example, social media data and all.
Yeah.
If
That
you want, you can delete them.
That's one very interesting point I wanted to ask you also, and because we are left with very little time, because I remember a few years ago one of the celebrities, he actually requested for right to be forgotten online. So that's again a very interesting case, that your personal information or any information related to you will be removed from the online platforms, and that's a very good thing. But is it recognized in all the jurisdictions in India?
Yes, ma'am. Because in Indian government, MHA also, Ministry of Home Affairs also, they have given a dedicated portal. Cybercrime.gov.in is there. Sanchar Sathi is there, where if you have any content which is actually according to you, that is not any image or any video that you don't want in any social media platform, you can make a complaint. You can give the URL, and based on your complaint, registered complaint, they will take the necessary action.
Okay. And ma'am, now we are left with the very little time, hardly 1 or 2 minutes. I request you to kindly wrap up. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll just conclude with the DPDP Act, because we need to understand the DPDP Act perspective also in terms of the consumer rights and the data protection, how they are correlated with each other. So DPDP provides a right to data portability or transfer, where we actually have, it gives the ability to move personal data from one service provider to another in a safe manner, right? Then right to nominate someone else to exercise, because what happens, these different types of you can say the rights were actually not part of the earlier Consumer Protection Act. So we need to understand that DPDP is actually helping us in lot of ways. As a consumer, I'm talking about. So it is whenever we are saying that DPDP Act is only for privacy, it is maintaining the privacy of the consumer. So it is helping from a lot of cyber crimes, for protecting our personal data, and also the organizational level data also.
Yeah.
So we need to understand our rights also. We need to understand the different measures that through which we can protect our data, and also the laws, regulations available that will help us to implement all these protection measures.
Absolutely, ma'am. Awareness is the key. Unless and until we are informed and updated about our rights and our duties, we won't be able to take the advantage of the rules that are there to protect us. Also, it is very important to know that we do have consumer forums, whether it's for physical goods and services or digital goods and services that we are availing these days. And also in this digital age, I think consumers should balance the benefit of personalized services along with the need to protect their personal data. Sometimes in order to get the benefit of the schemes and in a greed, I would say, we keep on distributing our data just like that. But I think apart from consumers, it is also the responsibility of companies and regulators to ensure that there is a system of data protection in place, a robust system out there. And with programs like these, we can always increase the awareness, and we can keep on spreading the word that how we can actually exercise our consumer rights and protect our data. because we have limitation of time, we won't be able to stretch this any further. But ma'am, thank you so much for your time and contribution to the session and for sharing your insights on consumer rights and data protection. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much to all listeners also. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am. Pleasure is ours. And we look forward to more sessions, and we look forward to learn more about data protection and online privacy. And right now, I must tell you very quickly about the assessment part. As you all know, it's a 5-day, 5-hour online training program. So there is going to be an assessment as well on the last day of the training session. What you need to do for the same, please log on to our website, which is ciet.ncert.gov.in. You have to go to the activities section and go for workshop and training option. When you click here, you will actually land up on a page which will take you to the different trainings that we are actually having. Right now, we are having this training of data privacy and protection. Click on the same and you will get the complete write-up. What are the objectives of the training, why we are having it. We are also having day-wise schedule for you. Also, this is something very important. You will get to know the title of the sessions, name of the resource persons who will be coming for these sessions, and the video links for these sessions already held. If you have missed out on watching any live session of ours, you can go to this link and you can watch the uploaded session. Then comes the another interesting part and important one, how to participate. I'm sure by now you all have registered for the training program, and the second step is to watch all these training programs very nicely on all these streaming platforms. Third step is actually about assessment. So, you need to go for the assessment. It will be opened on last day of the training session. It will stay open till 15th March 2026. You can click on the link and attempt the assessment. If you score more than 70%, you will be granted a certificate that you can download from DIKSHA portal. Apart from that, you can always submit your feedback by clicking on this link or scanning this QR code. And on a daily basis, whenever you're watching our sessions, please click on this link and do share your feedback. If there is any query that you can't ask during the session, you can email the same to us. If there is any experience that you want to share with us, do that, and it might help all the other viewers as well in keeping their data private and keeping themselves secure when it comes to online platforms. Now with this, we are wrapping up today's session of day 2, and very quickly let me tell you what you'll be watching tomorrow. So on day 3, we will bring you a session on privacy risk in emerging technologies. With this, it's a wrap. This is me, Harpreet Kaur, signing off, and in a short while from now, you can watch our session Sahyog. The schedule is right there in front of you. You have been watching all these programs since morning, and let's watch Sahyog, where we will be talking about turning mistakes into learning opportunities. What else can we ask for? So I'll join you very soon. You take care. Stay tuned. Namaskar.